The silk quarter unfolded before them in dazzling bolts of color: saffron, celadon, plum, winter white, hanging from wooden frames like the shed skins of enormous butterflies, vivid, almost dreamlike. Lynn moved through the displays with the effortless, territorial confidence of someone who had mapped every stall by the age of 12, her fingers trailing across the fabrics as she nodded to merchants who bowed low at the sight of the Chang family crest embroidered on her sash. Ren followed at a measured distance, cataloging nothing about the silk and everything about the spiritual residue lingering within certain bolts. A few had been treated with diluted yang wash to preserve their color, useless. One bolt near the back of a lesser stall carried the faintest trace of mountain spring yin, likely harvested from a stream winding through limestone caves. She marked its location and moved on. Lynn stopped before a raised wooden mannequin, draped in a formal gown of layered ivory and pale gold. The waist was cut high, gathered beneath the bust, with a wide sash designed to accommodate expansion. Ceremonial knots at the shoulders suggested a garment intended for public occasions of a very specific kind. "This one is lovely, don't you think?" Lynn said, her voice light and airy with innocence. She leaned in close, her breath warm against Ren's ear. "Though buying it might be a little too early, since you aren't carrying a child yet." Lynn's eyes locked onto Ren's face with predatory focus, scanning for even the slightest tremor, a twitch of the lip, a shift in the pupils, a flush creeping along the jaw, anything. Ren regarded the gown the way she might regard a rock formation, briefly with mild geometric interest. "The stitching on the left shoulder is uneven," she said. Lynn's smile held, but something behind it dimmed. She straightened, smoothing her own sash. "You really are impossible." They moved on. It was at the intersection of the silk quarter and the calligraphy lane that the woman appeared. Round-faced and bright-eyed, she carried a basket of dried jujubes and radiated the unmistakable energy of someone who considered other people's lives a form of public entertainment. Ren recognized her at once. Madame Hu lived 3 compounds south of the Chang Manor, and who had once informed every household on the street that Elder Wei's daughter-in-law had been seen purchasing fertility herbs from a disreputable apothecary. "Lynn, my dear girl." Madame Hu descended upon them with the inevitability of weather. Her gaze swept past Lynn and landed on Ren, and her mouth opened before her mind had quite finished processing what her eyes were reporting. "Jin is back!" She clapped her hands together, the jujubes rattling in the basket. "And Jin is wearing a dress. My goodness, if I didn't know any better, I would mistake him for a girl." Her eyes traveled the full length of Ren's figure with unabashed scrutiny. "He is even more beautiful than neighbor Jen." The words hung in the winter air. Madame Hu's expression shifted as the details continued to register. The way the fabric fell, the proportions that no amount of binding or padding could fabricate. Her breath caught. She seized Lynn's elbow and pulled her 2 steps sideways, dropping her voice to a whisper that carried perfectly in the cold. "Is that truly Jin?" Lynn nodded, her face arranging itself into an expression of such tender sisterly concern that it could have been painted on a temple wall. "But he has." Madame Hu gestured toward her own chest with fluttering fingers, her eyes darting back to Ren. "You know?" Lynn nodded again. She lowered her own voice, though not quite enough. "Yes, Ren has actually always been a girl, but father wanted a son so desperately that he forced her into boy's clothes from the day she was born." Madame Hu's face curdled with righteous indignation. "How scandalous, to do such a thing to a poor girl. I always thought there was something peculiar about that child, too delicate, too fine-boned. The things men do for the sake of their pride." Ren stood precisely where they had left her, hands folded inside her sleeves, breathing with the metronomic calm of deep cultivation. She watched a sparrow land on a roof tile across the lane. The sparrow watched her back for a moment, then fled. They encountered 3 more acquaintances before reaching the end of the silk quarter. A tea merchant's wife, a retired tutor who had once taught Lynn calligraphy, a young mother with an infant strapped to her back who recognized the Chang family crest and lingered a little too long. Each time the same widening of eyes. Each time, Lynn delivered the same story, with variations so slight they seemed rehearsed, which, Ren reflected, they likely were. May would have briefed her. Lynn performed the lie with remarkable consistency. Her voice softened at exactly the right moments. Her eyes glistened with carefully manufactured sympathy for her poor sister's years of forced masculinity. She touched Wren's arm with protective tenderness for the benefit of each new audience, and each time Wren permitted the contact without acknowledgement the way a statue permits rain. By the time they reached the open marketplace, Lynn's composure had settled into something much closer to genuine ease, the distinct relaxation of a woman who had finally found a role she could play well. The stalls here were rougher, draped with cured meats and bundles of winter greens, fragrant with star anise and the iron-rich scent of fresh blood from the butcher's block. Lynn turned, the teasing glint flashing back into her eyes. "So, what would you like to eat?" Wren surveyed the market. A vendor nearby ladled congee from an enormous iron pot, steam billowing upward in a white column. Another offered skewered lamb, gleaming with cumin and chili oil. A third displayed pyramids of steamed buns, their skins tight, smooth, and almost translucent. "Bone broth," Wren said, "with marrow, if available." Lynn wrinkled her nose. "That's what you want? Not tangulu? Not sweet rice cakes? You eat like a 70-year-old herbalist." "Marrow carries dense spiritual nutrients that assist meridian repair," Wren replied. Lynn stared at her for a beat, then laughed. A real laugh. Sudden, bright, and startled out of her before she could stop it. She immediately covered her mouth, as though the sound itself had betrayed her. "Fine," Lynn said. "Bone broth for the 70-year-old herbalist, and tangulu for me, because I am a normal person." She turned toward the congee vendor, and for a moment, just a moment, her shoulder brushed against Wren's, and she didn't flinch away.